Well, there it is, and with maybe more to come tomorrow. The Toronto Maple Leafs have relieved Sheldon Keefe of his head coaching duties, which is a really nice way of saying the Toronto Maple Leafs have fired Sheldon Keefe. Honestly, of all the things that might happen with this team, we've talked about Brendan Shanahan, we've talked about Mitch Marner and like other parts of the core, maybe John Tavares. Sheldon Keefe losing his job here was the most obvious. Honestly, it's been talked about for years. It seemed like he was going to get canned last year when Brad Treliving joined. Instead, he got a 2-year contract extension that kicks in next year. Whatever, it's MLSE's money. I don't care. You ever paid for an overpriced hot dog over expensive beer? That's where that money's going. Or maybe you don't get out to many Leaf games. Oh, okay, fair enough. Well, I bet you pay your phone bill. Yeah, that's where that money's going. Allow me to read the press release to you, and I'll break it down because there's a couple interesting parts in it as I go. Toronto Maple Leafs general manager Brad Treliving, so he still has his job, today announced that Sheldon Keefe has been relieved of his role as head coach. The organization will immediately begin the search for a new head coach, and decisions regarding the remainder of the coaching staff will follow. Now, I haven't heard any reports from any of the insiders or anything, but that wording is very interesting. Decisions regarding the remainder of the coaching staff will follow. So for anyone who thought maybe Guy Boucher would be taken over from Sheldon Keefe or any of the other assistants, it's not worded that way. I mean, maybe one of them gets promoted, and decisions regarding the remainder of the coaching staff will follow. Sure sounds a lot closer to, and we'll decide who to fire and not fire, rather than maybe we'll give one of them more money. Treliving continues. Today's decision was difficult. Sheldon is an excellent coach and a great man. However, we determined a new voice is needed to help the team push through to reach our ultimate goal. We thank Sheldon for his work and dedication to the organization over the last 9 years and wish him and his family all the very best. Listen, I want to pause on that for a sec. Treliving talking about like Sheldon Keefe, he's a good man and all that. I no longer, the longer I've been doing this, unless someone really deserves it, no longer like celebrating when someone gets fired. That doesn't mean I don't agree with this decision, because I do. This is what the Leafs needed to do. But over my time, covering the Leafs, in and around the Leafs, I've gotten to meet Sheldon Keefe several times, and he's been nothing but good to me, and I feel like that's important to note. And again, I'm going to reiterate, I think him losing his job here is the right move for the organization. Doesn't mean I'm going to dance on it. And listen, once again, to reiterate, I think the Leafs made the right decision here today in this moment. That doesn't mean I'm going to dance on the grave of his job. I got to cover him throughout his tenure with the Toronto Marlies, where he had several deep playoff runs going to the Final Four in 2016, and then 2 years later, winning the Calder Cup. I've seen him go to community events and talking to kids from the Whitby Wildcats, for example, doing all the good things that you ought to be doing when you have the mantle of head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Dude, it means something. I think it means something to be a head coach of any NHL team, but it's really hard to get this job. Not a lot of guys get it, and not a lot of guys last in the job for as long as Sheldon did. But this final part of the press release encapsulates the torture that was Sheldon Keefe's tenure with the Leafs for Leafs fans and for him, because it doesn't make any sense. Keefe coached the Maple Leafs to a 212, 97, and 40 record in 349 regular season games. You mean to tell me this dude coached 349 regular season games for the Leafs and he lost fewer than 100 of them in regulation? That means he won 60.7% of his games as a Leafs head coach during the regular season and got points in 72% of the games that he coached in the regular season. Do you know how stupidly high that is? Oh my gosh. Okay, Keefe coached the Maple Leafs to a 212, 97, and 40 record in 349 regular season games. The club recorded 3 consecutive 100-point seasons under Keefe, including a team record 115-point season in 2021-22. They didn't make it past the first round that year, which I think says it all. Keefe was also at the helm of the Toronto Marlies for 5 seasons, during which the team won the McGregor Kilpatrick Trophy as the AHL's top regular season team, on 2 occasions in the franchise's first Calder Cup in 2018. So that means half a decade with the Toronto Marlies, half a decade with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Both teams saw unprecedented regular season success. The Leafs had 3 straight 100-point seasons. The Marlies won the regular season twice. And it actually did culminate in playoff success, arguably 2 times. I mean, Final Four, that's a pretty good playoff run. I would kill for that with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they won the Calder Cup as well. But dude, with the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Stanley Cup playoffs, 1 playoff series win. Apologies, by the way. It's not that I still have lost my voice from the first round. It's I have the flu. Cool! Sound like Dutch Vanderlyn without all the bass in his voice and everything that makes him appealing. Well, appealing in the first bit, you have to play the game. Keefe came in when Mike Babcock got fired. And I'll never forget the pre-game interview done with Travis Dermott. I believe it was in Arizona because it was the first game. It was either Arizona or Colorado. One of the first games that Sheldon Keefe coached as Leafs head coach. And Travis Dermott, who had him in the AHL and then had him in the NHL, said, boys want to play for him. And dude, this was the thing. The team quit on Mike Babcock. They had no interest in playing for that human being anymore. And, well, we ended up finding out for decent reason. In that game in Vegas against the Golden Knights where Marc-Andre Fleury made that huge glove save on Nick Petan, that was still Babcock's last NHL game as a coach. You know that, right? Which is crazy on account of he was hired by the Columbus Blue Jackets. Tells you how bad the Leafs needed to get out from underneath that man. Sheldon Keefe comes on and they're way better right away. They go on a ridiculous streak of wins. Remember, Tyson Barrie hadn't scored all season, and then he scored in, I think, 3 of the first 4 games that Sheldon Keefe was the coach. It was hilarious. Ultimately, that lineup wasn't very good. It started to fizzle, and we never got to see whether or not they would have made the playoffs proper because COVID shortened that season. Playoff bubble starts. It's in Toronto. The Leafs are one of only 2 teams in the entire NHL to have actual home ice advantage. Both of those teams lost in the qualifying round, by the way. But Sheldon Keefe's first playoff matchup was against John Tortorella. Just a couple guys from the Tampa organization. Sheldon Keefe used to play there when he was in the show, and John Tortorella won a cup there as the head coach. What happened? Well, you're gonna notice a theme. The Leafs on the verge of elimination. They can't score, and then they do all their scoring in about 3.5 minutes, erase the 3-0 deficit. They force Game 5, a deciding Game 5. It was basically Game 7 because it was a best-of-5 series in the qualifying round. And what happens in Game 5? They can't score, and they lose. The next year, what happens? Canada division because of COVID, again. But the Leafs just run over all of the Canadian teams. They win that division, and they have a first-round series against Dominic Ducharme's Montreal Canadiens. What happens? Well, like 9 minutes in, the Leafs lose John Tavares in Game 1, lose Game 1. Not good, but then they run over Montreal the next 3 games. Game 2, the Leafs kill them. Game 3 was tight. Game 4 was 4-0. Between games 3 and 4, Sheldon Keefe had taken Rasmus Sandin out of the lineup and put Travis Dermott in. They won 4-0 with Travis Dermott, and for some reason, Game 5, they went back to Sandin. Sandin was terrible in Game 5. The whole team was terrible, though, in Game 5. The Leafs are down 3-0. They storm back. It goes to overtime. Alex Galchenyuk blows it 2-0, and we go to Game 6. In Game 6, the Leafs play terrible. Again, they're down 2-0. Unlikely comeback. Again, Zach Hyman scored. Oh my God, I'm so depressed. And so did TJ Brody. Force overtime. Travis Dermott giveaway after the Leafs outshoot the Habs into oblivion, but Carey Price stops everything. Dermott gives it away, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who's like on the verge of being a healthy scratch at this point in 2024, scores the overtime winner on Jack Campbell. Force Game 7. What happens in Game 7? Campbell allows a terrible goal, but also the Leafs can't score. 2022, what do we get? Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Leafs have home ice advantage. In fact, the Leafs have a 3-2 series lead heading into Game 6. What happens in Game 6? Well, the Tampa Bay Lightning win that, and they force Game 7. The Leafs have home ice advantage, and guess what? Tampa only scored 2 goals. They only got goals from one guy. His name was Nick Paul, and the Leafs lose because they can't score. Well, they did have 1 goal, and 2, actually, depends who you ask, but only one of them counted officially. 2023 happens. What happens in 2023? Well, the darndest thing happens. Even though Tampa Bay's John Cooper is probably out-coaching Sheldon Keefe the way he did the year before, the Leafs win. 3 games out of 6 go to overtime, and the Leafs won 1, 2, 3, all of them. The power play was notably good. Goals went in against Andrei Vasilevsky, and the Leafs win in overtime. John Tavares, Sheldon Keefe loses his mind on the bench. We're all gonna save our jobs. We're all gonna win the Stanley Cup. Next round, Florida. Florida goes up 3-0 after spanking the Leafs twice in Toronto. Game 3 goes to overtime. Could have made it a tight series. We'll never know because the Panthers won. They're 3-0 down. Marner has a really good game 4, but the series is over. Game 5 back in Toronto. It's close. It's close. It's close. But the Panthers win in overtime. Another disallowed goal in this one. And then this year, what happens? You're down 3-1 against Boston. You come back in tight games. Game 7 goes to overtime. And why can't you win? Because you can't score. You only had 1 goal. This team can't score in the playoffs, dude. They can't. And when they do, they often win, but they can't. However you reflect on Sheldon Keefe's time as a head coach with the Leafs is totally up to you. But I would say this, even if you think he did some things, and he obviously did some good things with the Leafs, look at all the regular season success, look at the growth of some of the players under him. Even if you think he did some good things, I don't think there's a question that this team could use a different voice. Head coaches get fired all the time. Head coaches get fired during the season that teams win the cup or the season before. Does that mean that the team completely deprogrammed from that head coach and threw everything that they were taught from that coach out the window? No! That head coach's fingerprints are all over that team. And next year, you never know, if the Leafs go on this magical run, we'll be able to say, some credit belongs to Sheldon Keefe. The dude hoisting the cup is gonna be another guy. They need a new voice. So many games they weren't prepared at the beginning of the game or the beginning of the period. I think the part of the torture for Sheldon Keefe is years ago, he put an emphasis on this team scoring playoff-style goals. In the Canada Division year, go back and watch the Amazon documentary. The Leafs were running over everybody. They were winning games. They were first place. But he was concerned that the team was not scoring playoff-style goals. He knew that was going to cost them. He knew they needed to score more goals like that, greasy in front of the net. He wanted them to do it. He knew what the problem was. He couldn't make them do it. He just couldn't make them do it. That is part of a head coach's job. You could argue they need new personnel. I will definitely meet you there, that they need new personnel, need a new head coach. Honestly, the new head coach could come in and tell the team the exact same things that Sheldon told them, but if they listen this time, maybe it'll be different. So, who's the next Leafs head coach going to be? Honestly, no idea. My guess is the Leafs are confident their guy is available. Based on the press release, I would not expect it to be one of the Leafs' assistants. I don't expect it to be Mike Van Ryan, Manny Malhotra, who are the other guys? Guy Boucher, obviously, Dean Chenoweth. Bruce Boudreau is a name that's been brought up, and he has another job. I want to say he's working with Niagara of the OHL. I assume he would leave that gig. And I love Bruce Boudreau, and I wouldn't mind to see the Leafs hire him in some sort of capacity, but I don't think it'll land well that a dude with wild regular season success who cannot win a game 7 would be hired to the Leafs to fix that very problem. Craig Berube is a name that keeps getting brought up, and 2019 was a while ago, guys. That's when Sheldon Keefe was hired, actually. Actually, no. The season before Sheldon Keefe was hired to the Leafs is when the St. Louis Blues won the Stanley Cup. I think part of the reason Berube's name keeps getting brought up is there's a clip going around of Sheldon Keefe from before Game 7. It sucks. It sucks. He goes to the whole dressing room. He's like, all right, let's relax, let's breathe, and let's have fun out there. And then the Berube clip, I think is before Game 7 in Boston in 2019, going for the Stanley Cup. He says, we're gonna effing win the Stanley Cup. And the darndest thing happened. Not only did the St. Louis Blues win the Stanley Cup, but they did something even more impossible than that. They won a Game 7 at TD Garden in Boston! I'm shooting this very soon after the news drop, so here's some things that insiders have said while I've been yapping. From Darren Dreger, Toronto is focused on finding the right fit. However, there is a want to act quickly. Work is underway in hiring Keefe's replacement. Treliving isn't making a rushed hire, but he won't wait around either. Evidently, the new Leafs head coach is a fence that we can all sit on. So it'll be quick, but not too quick. So it won't be in time for tomorrow's press conference with new MLSE CEO, Keith Pelly, President, maybe, for now, Brendan Shanahan, and GM Brad Treliving. As of right now, Elliot Friedman hasn't said anything beyond the announcement. Chris Johnston, CJ, hasn't said anything beyond the announcement, but I know the reason for that. It's because he's recording the CJ show right now, so that's going to drop later today, and it's going to have the news in it. Wild stat from Pierre LeBrun. There have been 19 head coach changes since the end of last season. That includes 18 guys who were canned and Rick Bowness, who is retiring. All this leaves is tomorrow. There's going to be a very big press conference for the Toronto Maple Leafs. New CEO of MLSE, Keith Pelly, is going to be present. Current president, Brendan Shanahan, is going to be there. There are lots of rumors that he's going to be announced as staying on as president, rumors that he's going to be announcing his resignation and maybe he goes somewhere else. We don't know. And GM Brad Treliving is going to be there as well. It's noteworthy that Treliving is there. And we talked about this on the podcast. It's noteworthy that Treliving is there along with the president, Brendan Shanahan, who's his boss, and the new CEO of MLSE, Keith Pelly, who's Shanahan's boss. If Shanahan were to be leaving, Keith Pelly would have to answer questions. But people are going to want to ask hockey questions. And it's not appropriate for the CEO of MLSE to do that. That's not his gig. His gig is to run the business. He's not exactly involved in hockey decisions. Brad Treliving can answer those questions if Brendan Shanahan is no longer there. You can't ask Brendan Shanahan those questions if he's no longer going to be the president. You can't ask him, hey, what do you think is the future of Mitch Marner, if he's not responsible for the future of Mitch Marner. Do you understand what I'm getting at? I think it's 50-50 Shanahan stays. Either way, today was an enormous shift for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and tomorrow might be an even bigger one. What do you think is going to happen? Let me know in the comment box down below, but for now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell your friends the winds of change are blowing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Well, just finished shooting the video, and I'm out for a walk with my daughter, and Sheldon Keefe posted his own video. I gotta share it here because this is one of the classiest things I've ever seen. It confirms what I said earlier. This guy gets it. He understands the issues that this team is facing. It's going to take a new voice. Listen to what he has to say.
Leafs Nation, time has come to say goodbye. Writing down a note and sending it out didn't seem like enough, and I do plan on taking a little break from media, so here I am. I'm forever grateful for the opportunity to coach the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's a dream come true for a boy from Brampton. I want to thank Kyle Dubas, Lou Lamoriello, Brad Treliving, Brandon Pridham, Brendan Shanahan, Larry Tannenbaum, and the MLSE board for giving me this opportunity to work with the Marlies and Leafs. I didn't get it done in the playoffs. I didn't help push our team over the line and deliver. I accept responsibility for that. No excuses. That's the job. I didn't get it done. It's the reality of the business, and I accept it. To the players, I appreciate all your efforts. Your talents and your work ethic made me look good on a lot of nights. Anyone who suited up for blue and white, I appreciate you. To the support staff of the Maple Leafs, you're tremendous people and you're elite at what you do. Players and support staff will drive the team to success. I believe it will win. Leafs Nation, you deserve your Stanley Cup. Your passion at home and on the road is unmatched. It's an incredible honor to coach the Maple Leafs, to try to deliver for you. To the media, I had to deal with you every single day, sometimes twice a day, 3 times a day. I appreciate your process. I respected the fact that you're honest and fair and had a job to do. I hope you appreciated the fact that I helped you do it. I don't know what comes next, but I know I'll be ready for it. In the meantime, I'll enjoy giving my family the time that they deserve. Love you all and be well.